for general family viewing.
Hello and welcome to yet another episode of The Grind with me, your host, Hibak Saeed. This week, we're going to be talking about tax compliance. What exactly does that mean for you as a small business? How could it affect the trade growth of your particular business? And how exactly is compliance important to you and the country at large? Of course, we have a lot to tell you today, but first, let's look at the market margins. This week on Market Margins, tax compliance in the country is currently at around 59%. This means that the country still falls beneath the 65% mark, a situation made worse by the lack of bookkeeping in a lot of MSMEs in Kenya. For perspective, about 80% of all businesses in the country are micro, small, and medium enterprises. About 98% of this number employs less than 10 people as staff. The total number of MSMEs adds up to about 7.4 million. 5 million of these businesses are informal. This means that they probably do not have official records of sales, receipts, or even e-TIMS machines to keep track of sales. This makes it even harder to keep track of taxes owed to and responsibilities expected of them to the Kenya Revenue Authority. Almost 15 million Kenyans, however, are still earning a living directly through MSMEs, and millions more benefit indirectly, making it the biggest employer in the country. Having this in mind, a lot of these businesses are the main contributors of tax in the country. Tax that is used to set up infrastructure, run public institutions, and ensure public service provision in the country. However, MSMEs, who contribute approximately 40% of the GDP, with the majority falling in the informal sector, contribute about 15% of the domestic tax collection and taxpayers with an annual turnover of below 50 million shillings. A huge shortfall from around 2 trillion plus revenue collected yearly by the Exchequer. Now it mainly points to one thing: the poor means of collection and accountability when collecting taxes from such businesses, something that would also, believe it or not, affect the survival rate of MSMEs in the country. Right, and from the background and a few tidbits maybe that you have picked up from the market margins, now we go to our entrepreneur of the week. Right, this week we're going to be talking about tax compliance, especially when it comes to small businesses. What does this mean for micro, small, and medium enterprises? There's a tax amnesty. What does that mean for your business? And how is compliance helping not only your business, but revenue collection in the entire country? First, you must introduce yourself. What is your name? What institution do you represent? In what capacity?
Yeah, my name is Barak Waluvengo. I am from East and South of Nairobi Tax Service Office, which is based at Samia Business Park. East and South of Nairobi is part of the Domestic Taxes Department, one of the stations in Nairobi, among north of Nairobi and west of Nairobi. So there are 3 stations in Nairobi under Domestic Taxes Department of KRA. East and South of Nairobi represents quite a huge jurisdiction, majorly industrial area and the Isili area. Yes.
And when it comes to the informal sector, a lot of informal businesses barely have bookkeeping skills. What is the compliance rate right now in the country?
The compliance rate in our country at the moment is at around 59%. Our target has been 65% because you can't achieve quite 100% given the dynamics of the market. So at 59%, we are not doing very well. And this is majorly because of a robust, informal sector, which is really growing at a fast rate. Yet they are unregistered and untaxed, and they don't have any form of organization that can be tracked by the Revenue Authority. So business is booming, yes, but we have had quite some challenges.
Right. Yes. And maybe for the businesses that are watching at this particular moment, they might be wondering, why should I even be giving revenue in the first place if I can get away with it? Why is tax compliance important to these businesses?
Tax compliance is really important because it is the backbone of revenue for our country. For the infrastructure of our country, we need taxes to be sorted so that we can easily meet the expenses of this country. Yeah. So one major challenge. Let me take you back to SMEs and their challenges. Earlier, we used to have SMEs that are totally not registered, but as time goes, we have realized that a lot of SMEs are coming forward to register themselves because they need to deal with big institutions to supply, say, to government institutions and to well-organized private institutions. Because we rolled out e-teams. Yeah? It is our tool for tracking, expenses and tracking basically transactions. Earlier, we had, of course, we've had iTax, and we have been enforcing the use of electronic tax register, the ETR. But then we have introduced e-teams, which now is an invoicing system. It helps in tracking the sales better. Now, a lot of organized companies have enrolled and they have registered on e-teams, but then for them to declare their expenses, traders or suppliers who they deal with must also enroll on e-teams for them to enjoy these deductions, to deduct the expenses. And so a lot of traders, a lot of suppliers from the informal sector have begun registering their businesses formally because you need to be registered before you are enrolled into e-teams. We have around 5 million people dealing in the informal sector. This is the Juakali industry, basically. The Juakali industry is a huge employer of people in this country. The Juakali industry also offers quite an alternative to expensive products that would otherwise be out of reach for the common mwananchi. So it is a big multi-million industry, and KRA and generally all tax authorities all over the world have been grappling with understanding how to tax the informal sector. Luckily, KRA has come up with ways in which the informal sector can easily be taxed. Yeah, we introduced the turnover tax, which is 3% of the gross sales, or rather the turnover, basically, of a business. And this, remember, is a final tax, meaning you will not be asked by the Kenya Revenue Authority to declare your statement of account or declare your transactions. It is due by the 20th of every month, and the only thing that you declare there is your sales and purchases. So it's quite a simple tax regime, which we hope that traders will embrace, and they have embraced. Another strategy that KRA uses to try and net the informal sector is trying to engage with the traders associations. We have quite a number of traders associations in Kenya. Each sector of the economy has somewhat organized themselves into groups. Yeah, we use this to channel our interests and of course to listen to the challenges of traders. Isili Business Community, for example, has been quite instrumental in assisting KRA, especially east and south of Nairobi TSO, my TSO, to register taxpayers for turnover tax. Earlier, we had quite a challenge, with traders. They were not registered, and it was evident that they were doing trade. And as you are well aware, Isili handles is quite a dynamic and a robust business center, which serves almost the entire East Africa. Yeah, curtains, carpets, electronics, quite a number of goods, tires, and they do a lot of imports, yeah? And so we realized a lot of them are not registered. By registration, I mean they have not gone to the registrar of companies to register their business. They do not hold a business registration certificate. These documents are essential for registering for a KRA PIN. And without registration, it is an uphill task for the taxman to bring to charge these people or to audit these taxpayers. Right now, our major initiative has been to register these taxpayers through the use, of course, of our recently hired revenue service assistants. They are called tax police. We've been trying to demystify the image or the thought that these are tax police. They are not tax police. They are our staff who have been sent out there with a specific role, basically to register these taxpayers. Once the registration is done, it becomes quite easy to audit.
And finally, you've spoken about some of the perks that they usually have, some of the deductions that they can get when they are registered, and how this can help them and in growing their business in general. There is the tax amnesty that is ongoing at the moment. How exactly can businesses take advantage of this amnesty?
Yeah, we rolled out the tax amnesty in September of 2023. The tax amnesty covers all the periods before December 2022. And business people who are not declaring earlier have been given this, I can say, a golden opportunity to come forward and declare what they were getting in these periods prior to December 2022. And it runs up to 2023. Actually, up to 2024. It runs up to 2024 July, at the end of June. At the end of June 2024. That's the end of the next financial year. And so, one of the major benefits a business can derive from taking advantage of the amnesty is that we will have a waiver of all penalties and interests for periods prior to December 2022. Yeah. And once, of course, they come forward, we will give them taxpayer education. We'll make it comfortable for them to file their taxes, to declare their taxes, and make their payments. And when I'm talking about payments also, traders should not be afraid of coming forward because we usually have a payment plan. And I know there's a lot of talk that KRA is harsh and does not entertain any thought of having payment plans. We do indeed understand the business environment. It has been tough, especially the periods after the COVID period. There were no imports and it was quite a challenging business environment. We do understand that because we are also Kenyans and it is in our place to perfectly understand the business environment. And so traders can have a payment plan for whatever figures. Even if they come with maybe they have principles of in the 5 million, 10 million, it can be they can be given a payment plan that is comfortable for them based on how trade is going on in the country.
Right, and right from the horse's mouth, so to speak, that is how compliance can be helping a lot of MSMEs. What are some of the advantages that you could be taking from this? How exactly can you enhance your business through tax compliance and paying taxes and, of course, adding to the economy in this country? We go for a very short break, but when we come back, we go to Business Capital.
The news that matters the most is the one that hits close to home. When disasters strike, we are there to inform you. When the bullets are flying, we tell you who's shooting and why. Reporting on your victories, your health, your money, your security, your past, present, and future. We are interested in telling the stories of creativity, hard work, and resilience that you are known for.
That is our job. This is my job. My name is Victor Moyakane, and it's my honor to bring you this news this way every Thursday night on the Home of Untold Stories.
katika majengo haya hapa.
On business capital, it's clear that businesses could benefit much from compliance when it comes to revenue collection. Being in good terms with the exchequer could mean that you have backing when seeking loans, especially for the expansion of your business, having complied with tax payment, whether turnover tax or otherwise. Financial institutions ask for tax compliance from business owners when considering them for loans, especially for large sums. This could mean absolute success for your business. Mergers and acquisition. The growth trajectory of your business could rely solely on your tax payment. Many businesses, before establishing ties with yours, would want evidence on clean books and tallying numbers from operations. Investor appeal. How appealing is your business to investors? Whether foreign or local depends on your clearance with the exchequer. This also sets you above competition and solidifies trustworthiness and commitment to fulfilling contractual obligations. Eligibility for tax relief. Tax relief is usually offered to businesses who comply with payment timelines. This means that for the sum total paid in tax, you could get some back due to laws and regulations meant to protect you as a business owner, and most importantly, there has been the extension of a tax amnesty recently until mid-next year, solely focused on removing interest and penalties that are accrued before December 2022 that have been holding businesses back from fulfilling their tax obligation. This could be a chance to start on a new slate for your business, especially if said penalties were burdensome for you when it came to clearance. And right after our business capital of the week, let's jump on to our expert of the week. This week, we're going to be talking about tax compliance and the essence that it has, especially for small businesses. Why is it important for you to have your books in order? Already we have our expert. If you could just start by introducing yourself. What is your name? What exactly is your expertise about?
Well, hello everybody. My name is Moses Mushiru Mwangi. I'm an economist and a data scientist. So basically, I'm in the line of analyzing data that falls within the field of development and growth. And of course, in economics, we do taxation, budget, and the essence of that to the whole picture of the economic growth.
A lot of businesses, especially MSMEs, around 80% of MSMEs, 98% are actually in the informal sector, meaning that they don't have official books, they don't have records of their sales. Why is it important for them to start having these books?
Yeah, I think importantly it is to understand the landscape of the SMEs. It's important to note that in Kenya, one of the key contributors of growth is manufacturing, and most MSMEs fall within that sector. But also it's important to note that the contribution that comes with that must be harnessed so that the government can be able to build infrastructure, because for the success of any business, the infrastructure help need to be there. And for the government to up their expenditure, then taxation comes in. So it's important that SMEs are actually registered. So after registration now, that allows the government to have enough information about them, their operation, their revenues, their cost, and with that, the government can collect tax, necessary tax, which will be used to, of course, finance the SMEs. And also, importantly, you can't be funded unless you're registered. So the government have different structures of funding SMEs.
Essentially, when it comes to revenue collection, one would say, well, that is the government's business. And say if I'm a very small MSME, my traceability, why would it be important for me to have these books so that I can be traceable for the government, so that I can access these funds for my expansion? Why is it important?
Yeah, importantly and firstly, it's because for the sake of the expansion of the business. So one, a business can't expand entirely on itself. So we need finances, which actually the major challenge with most SMEs is finance. A big chunk of them, actually about 46% of the SMEs don't go past their first anniversary. This is because of the capital and finances strain. So for business to be financed by maybe the banks or different institutions that the government has put in place, you need to be registered. So once you are registered, the government can actually recognize you and the banks can actually have a trace to you, whereby they will believe that the loan you are taking or the credit you are taking can be traced somewhere. So it's very important that businesses are registered for that sake. Also, secondly, business needs to expand beyond the country maybe. And for that to happen, you must be ratified by the government. Because again, when you're trading out there, it's not like in the local setting whereby maybe people might know you, so there's a trust within that. So people out there, the documents actually build a network of trust. Because in economics, the transaction cost that comes with trust is quite high. So once you have the document, the other parties can actually know that this person is recognized by their government. So in case of something, we can trace it somewhere. So it's really important, say for the tax part, because most of the business are trying to escape that part. That's why they don't register. And also I think it's very important that business also, with registration, it's also easier to come into pact with other businesses, and mostly the bigger ones. So in the world of technology and collaboration and innovation, people need to join hands so that we can actually push a certain agenda. So for a business to grow to that, the other business won't just enter into agreements with people who are not registered. So it's not necessarily for tax, because people feel that the government is pushing people to register for the sake of tax.
And I understand that this is kind of a double-edged sword. It has its advantages and disadvantages. Maybe we could lean to the advantages a little bit more. There are perks towards tax compliance and how exactly tax compliance can help you as a business. There is the tax amnesty. Maybe if you could just give us a little bit more clarity on this particular amnesty.
Yeah. Well, the government is trying to push the economic blueprint that was structured to last up to 2030. So that we can actually increase economic growth to about 10%, which, of course, as it appears now, it's quite a long shot. Hopefully, we'll get nearby that. I think the economic growth now, it's around at 5%. But to look at that, see, the government is trying to bring structures to actually empower the SMEs. Like I said, SMEs contribute to almost 90% of the manufacturing field. And the manufacturing field has critical roles it plays. One, it alleviates poverty. It also pushes economic growth, which is very important. And also, it's also one of the largest employers here in Kenya. With a very high unemployment rate, we need to see SMEs growing. So the government sometimes gives tax holidays and also tax incentives, whereby those who have not paid, who have accrued interest, are given a duration of time so that they can actually meet that. And it's necessary for business to do that because, again, if a business gets registered and they have accrued a lot of interest and penalties, it means most of when it comes to a point that the penalties are being enforced, they might collapse. So it's good to flow with the regulations as they come. Of course, there is the bit of business feeling, maybe the government is taxing a lot. There is the bit of feeling maybe we need to keep all our money with ourselves. But it's also necessary that we understand that for you to exist in the business world, there are other factors that comes in. There is the road infrastructure, there is the communication infrastructure, which is largely developed by the government, mostly because of the cost that comes with developing that. And since the business want a favorable environment, mostly to trade within and without, so it's necessary that they also play a part in ensuring that they comply with this and also take advantage of when the government gives such a chance whereby some of these penalties are relaxed so that they can actually not pay excessively interest and also so that they can continue operating.
And pushing the economic growth to around 10% by 2030 does seem like a long shot because the projection for next year, I think, is about 6%, which, Again, a very long shot. However, we are seeing that the government is making a lot of financial or fiscal changes, especially when it comes to frameworks, and they're talking about having, VAT at 18% so that we can catch up with other EAC countries. What is the effect that this will have to a lot of MSMEs and their operational costs?
I think one of the strategies that comes with each government when it comes into place, they try to revise things towards their manifesto, which sometimes is not necessarily a good thing. I think the reason why a blueprint was made for the year all the way to 2030 was to guide us into that. So once taxation changes, once that's a shock to businesses. For example, if you are paying a certain tax amount and then it doubles or it increases with a certain percentage, that means the business has to part with more than they were doing. And that necessarily affects them in the sense that if the revenue does not increase at par. So once that happens, we are trapped. The business can end up in a position whereby they are not able to meet that. And it's good to understand that most SMEs are actually financed through personal loans, family loans, and such kind of things. So when tax increase in all dimensions, whether it's income tax, whether it's VAT, first it affects the personal level of taxation. And when taxation is affected at a personal level, it means savings drop. Once savings drop, it means the businesses don't have enough or don't have an avenue to take credit. Once that happens, now the business is strained. So I think to some extent, we also need to have a national taxation policy which is a bit stable so that we don't end up, today we are doing this and then tomorrow we have a different scenario together. Of course, the government will defend itself by saying there are debts which have been accrued over time. But I think that's now where economic sound policy strategizing comes in. We need to have necessarily a certain set structure that needs to be followed so that we don't end up trapping a lot of mostly SMEs. And it happens that most SMEs collapse, a lot of them, mostly some in the first year. Like there's a report by the central bank, they said a while back that 46% don't get past the first year and very few get past the fifth year. So that means that there's a lot of strain that happens on the way. And to reduce this, then things needs to be structured mostly on a medium term or a long term to avoid that trap for the businesses.
All right, essentially what you're saying is we must have a predictable tax regime, not only for MSMEs, but even investors, because we are losing a lot of investors. And finally, just in a minute or so, if you could just tell us, looking into the future, if we do have a predictable tax regime, what does this mean for MSMEs?
One, tax serves three major roles. One, tax is a way of protection. So for example, for SMEs to grow, they need to be given a little bit of a push, kinda, because again, the business up there have a competitive edge beyond them. So taxation can help SMEs, whereby mostly the import duty taxation, where we don't allow the people bringing things into our country to bring so much that those who are playing in our field actually collapse. Again, also, taxation, if it's well structured, will help develop the country because the highest financial government expenditure is taxes. So we need to be keen on that because again, we won't assume that the private sector will run everything and everything will work. We need the government to come in. So a bit of sensible taxation is necessary. Yeah.
And that's an in-depth analysis of the importance of tax compliance, the role of the government, the role of the private sector, and how exactly all these factors come into play when it comes to your business specifically. This has been The Grind this week. Thank you so much for joining us. Until